Good evening. Today is February 20th, 2024. Our thought for today is well done is better than well said. That's by Benjamin Franklin. I'm going to go ahead and officially call this meeting to order tonight. I'm going to ask Commissioner Mason if he would lead us in our invocation and our pledge tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let us all bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us back to this place one more time. God, we thank you for all that you've done for us and all that you are about to do. God, we just ask that as we move forward and do the county business, God, that you would be with us, go before us, go behind us, God. God, lead us and guide us and direct us into all truth, God. God, we even ask that you continue to allow this board to make the best decisions for this amazing community, God, so that we may elevate and go to the next level, and that this community may be all that you have called and desired for it to be. So we ask that you renew our hearts, renew our minds, renew our spirits, so that we may be the leaders that you have called each and every one of us to be. God, we even ask that you touch everyone under the sound of my voice, God, where there'll be nothing missing, nothing lacking, that they will have everything that they need. And God, we thank you, we bless you, we praise you, and we give you all the kingdom, honor, and the glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, I seek a motion that we adopt the agenda, please.
So moved.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Mason and second by Commissioner Edwards. Any discussion? All in favor? It passes 5-0. Next is citizens' comments. This opportunity that we allow citizens to make comments about agenda topics only. You have 3 minutes to do so. If you would come at this time, please, ma'am, sir, please state your name and address for the record, please. Agenda topics only. You may come at this time. Please, ma'am, please, sir, state your name, your address for the record, please. You have 3 minutes to do so.
Good evening, commissioners. We're going to be talking about the ARPA fund money today. So I ask that the ARPA fund money be transparent. We want to have those funds put on the county website, how they was dispersed to the public. And if possible, we would like to also have those ARPA fund money investigated by the federal government and state government to say how this money was dispersed. My name is Terry Jackson. I'm on the Thread Nation News, and I live here in Covington. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Thank you. Next is the chairman's report. Ms. Hughes, if you would.
Thank you, Chairman Baines. Good evening, commissioners. How y'all doing? As we continue to visit community nonprofit organizations and shed light on useful resources available in Newton County, tonight you will hear from Ms. Tanya Hammonds of Repairs of the Breach, Inc., and Ms. Emily Howes of the Covington First United Methodist Church. They received $42,275 and $30,000 respectively in ARPA nonprofit grant funds. Let's welcome Ms. Emily Howes to the podium. I don't see her. Tanya, come on up. Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman of the Board and Commissioners. On behalf of our organization, Repairs of the Breach, we would like to say thank you for the funds that were given to us. As I had a visit with Chairman Baines and Manager Cooper a few weeks ago, I explained to them of how our organization put those funds to use. And I don't know if you guys want a brief of our ministry. We've been in this community since 1991, serving the community. And since COVID, our focus has been mostly on homelessness and families who were impoverished. So right after COVID, we were able to partner with Willing Helpers Medical Clinic, and they loaned us 2 intern social workers who we had until May of 2022, and they left. And when they left, it left a big hole because we had lots of citizens who needed those services. So with the funds that were approved, that was one of the things that we as a board decided was most important, to use those funds to hire a social worker who was available 3 days a week to visit with those who are disabled, those who are homeless, those who need assistance, filling out basic applications such as job applications, food stamp applications. They might need transportation to the Social Security office, whatever. So we used the majority of the funds to hire the social worker, and I believe that it was very impactful to the community. The other parts of the funds that we use some of the funds for plumbing. We have showers there daily. If you're not familiar with our services, before they opened the warming center, we were serving between 30 and 40 individuals a day to simply to take a shower and get clean. And so the numbers are down now because now they can go to the warming center. But so we used some of the money to replace some of the old plumbing in our bathroom facilities where these are used for the community to have showers and get clean clothes and hygiene items. We were donated a van that we are able to use. One of our outreach team members was using her own personal vehicle. We were donated a van by a church, and we used some of the money to simply tune up that van and get it on the road so that it's now running safely. And the rest of the money was spent for supplies, food. I have a detailed list of how each dollar and dime was spent if that's needed. But I just want to say thank you. I don't want to take up a lot of time. I believe that the money was used for the benefit of the community and those in need that we serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Emily, and the repairs of the breach for what you do for the community. And I mean, not Emily. Tanya, I'm sorry. And I believe Emily did come in. If you would, please come on up.
Good evening, you all.
Good evening.
If any of you have small children or once upon a time did, you might understand my lateness. There were a few tears when Mom had to leave close to dinner time. But I appreciate being given the opportunity to speak to you all. As you said, my name's Emily House, and I'm the director of Giving Hands Food Pantry. We are a nonprofit ministry of Covington First United Methodist Church here in Covington, and we currently serve approximately 1,000 families each month. I want to thank the Board of Commissioners for awarding us $30,000 last year and let you know how we've poured that money back into our community. After operating drive-up prepackaged food distributions due to COVID-19, Giving Hands Food Pantry moved back to indoor food distributions back in March of last year. That means guests now get to have the option to still pick up a prepackaged box of food or to shop for their own groceries. And this new shopping option allows our guests a lot more choice and dignity. It significantly decreases waste, and it lowers our operating costs. Thanks to the Newton County Food Pantry grant, Giving Hands Food Pantry purchased a dozen new shopping carts that filled the shopping cart corral that was actually built and donated by FFA students at Newton College and Career Academy. We also repaired our concrete sidewalk and added in a new set of stairs to make loading groceries into cars less of a challenge on our guests. We used grant funds to maintain one of our most important pieces of equipment, our refrigerated box truck. This truck transports thousands of pounds of food from local grocery stores back to the food pantry each week. We purchased new tires and had our food truck serviced so it can continue to transport the frozen meat, bakery, and produce, dairy, and on items that our guests have really come to depend on. Giving Hands was also able to supplement food pantry staff salaries, purchase promotional materials, and replace a broken AC unit our team really gets to appreciate and feel the effects of these purchases daily, whether it's from keeping cool on a hot summer Georgia day, or appreciating that our team has gotten to grow from a team of 2 to a team of 3 when we added our guest coordinator, who now oversees guest appointments and guest relations. And we've been able to share our mission much more effectively with our community at events like the Fuzz Run. And lastly, with your help, we purchased approximately 40,000 pounds of food that all went to Newton, Jasper, and Butts County residents facing food insecurity. So Giving Hands Food Pantry was able to provide each family that came to visit us between 45 and 75 pounds of food at each visit with no cost to the family. So thank you again, Newton County, for your immense support for organizations like ours that are trying to ensure a better, stronger One Newton. We cannot do the important work that we absolutely love doing without you guys. So thank you again.
Thank you, Emily. Giving Hands and the Repairs of the Breach Out does such a amazing job in our community. So thank you so much for what you do. Lastly, in the chairman's report, we are preparing for State of the County on March the 26th at 10 a.m. at the Porter Auditorium. So we want to invite you guys, State of the County. Mr. Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members, residents of the community. I come before you today with the county manager's report. My part of it will be abbreviated because I'm going to yield the remaining time to Mr. David Irwin, partner at Malden and Jenkins, so that he can provide an overview of our financial audit report for June 2023. So in terms of my report, it's simple. I want to talk about some outstanding people really briefly. A huge shout out to the coaches and the teams who participated in the HBCU Softball Invitational this past weekend. It was a great event. I had opportunity to partake in the welcoming part of it, as well as catch a lot of games on Saturday, and it was some great softball being played. And a special congratulations to the Lady Bisons of Howard University and Coach Torrey Tyson on winning the tournament, but a really special thank you to Mr. Leonard Moody, Miss Ellie Moody, and Miss Shanita Edwards, the organizers of the event. We believe that this is going to be a long-standing partnership. I've had some discussions with them, their takeaways, and what we can do to enhance this going forward next year. So I'm really excited about that opportunity and that partnership that we've established. It was a great event. The community really came out and supported, and neighboring communities really came out and supported. So kudos to Newton County in that regard. Also, from an internal perspective, kudos to Ms. Angela White Davis, our Board of Commissioners, our Board of Elections Director. We started early voting on yesterday. On yesterday, we had 150 early voters. And when I checked today at approximately 1:15 for today, we had 116 early voters for today. So we're moving right along with our early voting process, and kudos to her and her team for making sure that the process in this early voting program is really fluid. So when we talk about financial audits and reporting, it's simple. We're going to take a look at our general fund revenues, our general fund expenditures, our fund balance history, and our enterprise funds. So without further ado, I would like Mr. David Irwin, partner at Malden and Jenkins, to come up and provide a presentation.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Hope
Good
you
evening.
all are doing well. Again, my name is David Irwin, and I'm with Malden Jenkins. Again, I'm the partner who oversaw this year's audit of the county's financial statements, and I certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here with you all this evening to discuss with you all the results of this year's audit. I won't take up too much of your time, but the purpose of today's presentation is to provide you all an overview of our independent auditor's report, discuss the results of the 2 compliance reports that we issue in conjunction with the audit, hit a few of the financial statement highlights, discuss some information that the auditing standards requires that we communicate to you all, and then obviously to answer any questions that you all may have. Now, the financial statements themselves that have been presented to you all are the responsibility of county's management and members of the board. As your independent external auditors, our responsibility is to express an opinion on these statements. We conducted our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards and governmental auditing standards, and I'm happy to say that we're issuing a clean or unmodified opinion on this year's report. Again, this is what you want. This is the highest level of assurance we can provide your external auditor. What this means is that in our opinion, the financial statements are considered to be fairly presented in all material respects in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. As part of the audit, again, there are 2 compliance reports that we issue, the first of which is a single audit report. Again, a single audit report is a compliance report that is required when an entity has over $750,000 of federal expenditures during the year. The county had around $13.6 million of federal expenditures in FY23. As was the case with the financial audit, we are issuing a clean or unmodified opinion on the single audit as well. The second compliance report is something called the Yellow Book Report, which again, this is a report on the county's internal controls and your compliance with various laws and regulations. And I'm pleased to say that we do not have any audit findings to report to you all this year, meaning we noted no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in the county's internal controls during our audit. And you know, as I mentioned to you all last year, you know, for a county your size, there's obviously a significant amount of financial activity for which you all have to account for. In addition, with all the new accounting standards are being implemented each year, and really just how complex the financial reporting process has become, it makes it all the more impressive to stand here before you this evening and present to you all an audit that not only has a clean opinion, but also no audit findings. So again, that's certainly something you all should be proud of. And to me, it really speaks volumes about the hard work done by your staff. Brittany, the entire finance department did a great job again this year. They were very accommodating. Our audit team had everything ready for us and quickly answered our questions and got us everything that we needed in order to get the audit finalized by the 12/31 deadline. So again, we certainly appreciate their hard work this year, and you know, again, just thank you for their team. Thank you to your team for all their hard work. Now for a brief overview of your financial statements. Again, you all prepare what is called an annual comprehensive financial report, otherwise known as an ACFR. An ACFR requires the inclusion of additional information that goes above and beyond the basic financial reporting requirements. This document is submitted annually to the Government Finance Officers Association, otherwise known as GFOA, where they put it through a pretty stringent review process. Not only their professional staff, but they also have a special review committee that reviews the county's document. And when they look at the county's ACFR, their goal is not to assess the financial health of the county. What they want to do is make sure that the necessary information is in this report so the readers of your financial statements can do so themselves. And through this review, the GFOA has once again awarded the county the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for fiscal year 22. And that certificate is included in this year's report. So again, congratulations to you all on that. This is a very impressive document and one that you all should certainly be proud of. As you look through the report, one section I always like to point out is the Management's Discussion Analysis, otherwise known as the MD&A. It's right after our audit opinion. It begins on page 6. I always strongly encourage everyone to read this section. The purpose of the MD&A is to make it easier for a broader audience to use and better understand your financial statements. And it does this by providing a narrative explanation of the financial statements from management's perspective. So, you know, if you ever have any questions about any fluctuations in financial activity, anything unique or unusual that occurred during the year, oftentimes you could find your answer within the MD&A. In addition, there's quite a bit of comparative information in this section. So you have financial activity for not only FY23, but also FY22 in this section as well. And you know, to me, that adds a lot of value to the reader. It gives you a much better understanding of the current year activity when you had the prior year numbers there for comparative purposes. So again, if you can, I would strongly encourage everyone to read through the MD&A. Now, the county's basic financial statements are broken into three components, the first of which being the government-wide statements. Now, the government-wide statements, they provide a broad view of the county's operations, similar to what you would see in a private sector business. Of all the funds of the county, they're combined into two columns depending on the nature of the fund. You have a column for your governmental activities as well as a separate column for your business type activities. But again, as you can see on this slide, we have a slide that summarizes the county's financial activity from the government-wide perspective. But as you can see, the county ended the year with assets and deferred outflows of resources of around $465 million. Of that amount, approximately $248 million are your capital assets, net of accumulated depreciation. Again, capital assets, that's the land, buildings, machinery, equipment, vehicles, et cetera, that's owned by the county. You all also had around $163 million in cash and investments at year end. Total liabilities were around $144 million. Of that amount, around $105 million are long-term in nature, meaning they're not due within the next fiscal year. Total revenues were around $124.5 million compared to expenses of around $132.8. So this resulted in an ending net position of approximately $321 million, which is a decrease of about $8.3 million for the year. But all in all, not a bad year for the county from an entity-wide perspective. Again, while your net position did decrease, the reason for that was the decrease in the net position of the Joint Development Authority, for which you all have an equity interest. So that being said, you're looking at your balance sheet. It's a strong balance sheet. It's a good-looking balance sheet, and you all are in good shape financially. And again, when I talk about net position, another thing I always like to remind people, net position is not what you all have in the form of cash for discretionary spending. Net position is merely the difference between assets and liabilities, only a portion of which is cash on hand. The second component of your financial statements are the fund level statements. Again, this is what you all typically see throughout the year. This component, it focuses on individual parts of the government and reports the county's operations in more detail than that of the government-wide statements. And of all the funds that you have, if I'm in your shoes, my primary focus is on the general fund. Again, the general fund is the main operating fund of the county, and therefore it accounts for the majority of your revenues received and funds expended. But we have a couple slides here, the first of which breaks down the general fund's revenues for the year. Again, this is just the general fund. But your total revenues for the general fund were around $87.6 million. That's about a $4.1 million increase compared to FY22. But as you can see on this chart, obviously the vast majority of the revenue of the general fund's revenues are derived from taxes, which total around $75.2 million. And that represented about 86% of the total revenues of the general fund. And again, taxes, that includes your property taxes, your franchise taxes, sales taxes, et cetera, that were collected during the year. A couple other significant sources of revenues worth mentioning. You all had charges for services of just under $5.6 million, intergovernmental revenue of $1.6 million, and licenses and permits of around $1.5 million for the year. This next chart, it presents the general fund's expenditures by major function. Expenditures totaled around $79.9 million, which was an increase of about $10 million compared to FY22. Again, as you would expect, public safety, it represents the majority of these expenditures. Public safety was around $45.7 million, and it accounted for around 57% of the general fund's total expenditures. General government expenditures were around $12.2 million, and you all had judicial expenditures of about $7.7 million for the year. So in total, the general fund's fund balance increased by approximately $6.7 million for an ending fund balance of $58.6 million for the year. This next slide is very interesting to me. It shows the fund balance history of the general fund over the past 5 years. And again, slides such as these, again, are always interesting, to kind of reflect back on where you were compared to where things currently stand. But, as you can see, you all have done a really good job of increasing your fund balance, especially the past 3 years. So that's certainly something that the entire county should be proud of and commended for. Again, as I've mentioned before, similar to net position at the government-wide level, one thing I always like to remind people is it pertains to fund balance. This isn't what you all have in the form of cash. Again, fund balance is merely the difference between assets and liabilities, only a portion of which is cash on hand. Additionally, another thing to keep in mind, the general fund incurs expenditures of approximately $6.7 million per month. So you all ended the year with an unassigned fund balance equal to around 9 months worth of operating expenditures. That's strong. That's something you all should be proud of. But with that being said, with you all being a June 30 year end, that strong fund balance is very much needed to get you through the months of July through November when your revenues are typically down compared to other times of the year. But again, as I said before, this chart really says a lot, especially how it's increased over the last 3 years. So congratulations to you all on that. A couple other funds I just want to briefly mention are the county's 2 major enterprise funds, which again are your water fund and your solid waste fund. Enterprise funds, they're used to account for operations in a manner similar to that of a private sector business. The intent of these funds is to be self-sufficient and to generate, sufficient operating revenues to cover your operating expenses. So as you can see on this chart, it compares your operating revenues and expenses for each of these 2 funds. But as you can see, both of these funds generated operating income this year and generated positive operating cash flows. So again, that's certainly something you want to see out of your enterprise funds. One final item to discuss, again, is just certain information that the auditing standards require that we communicate to you all. With you all receiving a clean opinion and no audit findings, the information on this slide is essentially formality, but we received full cooperation from county management staff. There were no disagreements with management that would have affected the financial statements. There were no uncorrected misstatements. And again, we are independent of the county as required by government auditing standards. And with that, unless anybody has any questions, that concludes my presentation. But as you can see when you look at your financial statements, there's obviously a lot of information in that report. What I tried to do is just break it down and provide you a synopsis of what I think is of most importance to you all. But again, if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to address those at this time. But before I close, I do just want to thank your staff again for all their hard work. And we certainly appreciate the opportunity to be of service to you all and look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Any questions, commissioners? Commissioner Sanders.
Thank you so much for this extensive report. I really appreciate it. Going back to where you stated our private sectors, where the solid waste and the water authority, you mentioned about them possibly being able to operate on their own. Can you expound upon that a little bit?
Well, again, the purpose of your enterprise funds is to generate sufficient operating revenues to cover your operating expenses and not have to rely on transfers from other funds. Now, again, your solid waste fund, it still has a significant deficit in that position. But what this chart tried to do is just show that, at least in this year, and I believe it was the prior year as well, these funds are generating sufficient operating revenues to cover their operating expenses. Now, again, there's some non-operating expenses that aren't included in this slide, such as interest expense, that brings this down. But again, from an operations standpoint, both of these funds are generating operating income.
They can function on their own. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, thank you for this report, by the way. It's very well put together. So, you mentioned early on a decrease in our net position, and you said why? What from last year to this year, and what was that again?
It was your investment in your joint venture. But again, that's only at the entity-wide level. Your investment in your joint venture, that's only recorded. It's not recorded in any of the funds. It's only recorded at the entity-wide level. So you only see, from a financial reporting standpoint, you'll only see it once during the year, and that's within these financial statements. You know, in the day-to-day, month-to-month activities of the county, the focus again is on the individual funds themselves, which that that investment, that investment, that joint venture is not included within your funds. So again, that's merely a government-wide financial reporting adjustment.
I got you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. C. First of all, thank you. That was very impressive. Just little information for us, especially for me. My question is this: is that you said there was 9 months? We had 9 months of operational expense, fund balance. And so, what is the typical amount of fund balance that county our size should have?
Well, there's no right or wrong answer. It does depend on your year end, with you all being a June 30 year end and a significant portion of your revenue for your general fund coming from your property taxes, which again is collected in November, December. You need a larger fund balance as of June 30.
Absolutely.
And so, there's no definitive answer to your question. It really depends on a variety of factors. But 9 months for a June 30 year end is, I would say, is strong. Ideally, you would want anywhere between 4 to 6 months, but 9 months is really
Right.
impressive.
Right. I had been told, I guess by other auditors, that we needed about 10%, 10 to 15 to 20% of excess cash in order for an emergency, to give that shortfall in those months where we're not taking in quite as much money.
Yeah, and that's kind of on the lower end, again, with you all being a June 30 year end. But where you're at is to me, is where you need to be.
Okay, so we got about, I think, $40 million. I think that's what I've been told. Maybe I'm around $40 million of fund balance cash at this.
Well, again, fund balance isn't what you have in the form of cash. I don't have with me the amount of cash you have on hand in the general fund as of year end. But again, fund balance is just the difference between assets and liabilities, only a portion of which
absolutely,
is cash.
and I understand that. The only thing what I'm saying is that I think it's at some point we need to stop continually putting more and more money into fund balance. If this is the amount of cash that we need where we're at now, then we need to say we're going to cap this right now and take the other monies that they may be taking in and maybe want to put into fund balance, take it and spend it on some of our citizens and projects and stuff that we so desperately need here in Newton County.
Well, again, as your auditor, that's not something I can sit here and suggest that you all do. There are advantages for having fund balance. As we've seen the past 15 years, we've seen that economic crisis, the economic downturn in 08, 09. We had the global pandemic in 19 and 20, and just anything that can come up, whether it be weather related, this, that, and the other. You never know when you're going to need those funds. It also improves your bond rating, having a stronger fund balance. So there's certainly there's no right or wrong answer in how much months fund balance you should have in your general fund. There's a lot of factors that come into play there. But just a broad overview in looking at your financial statements and looking at your financial activity, it's a good fund balance. It's a strong fund balance. But again, that fund balance is needed, essentially, especially to get you through the months of July through December.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Thank you. Thank you, sir, for being here tonight. Brittany, thank you guys. You always do a great job. Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Thank you guys for leading the way in this, and thank this board for making the decisions that need to be made to get us where we are now. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Cooper, turn it back over to you.
That concludes my county manager's report, sir.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Sanders.
I want to congratulate you on the event this weekend for bringing it here. I just want to shout out the Grambling State University softball team that you did not mention that won a lot of games this weekend. But I also I did speak to Ms. Edwards and find out that her family lives in District 3, because I wanted to know why she came to Newton County. So her partners and family live in the county, which is why they brought the HBCU event here, and I'm looking forward to happening again every year. And hopefully we can do more advertising in the community, because I got almost talked about with my Grambling State University alumni. They didn't know about the event. So some of them did come on Sunday at the last minute, but they would have probably packed up Newton County if they knew about it. Thank you.
Commissioners, I seek a motion that we approve the consent agenda, please.
So moved.
Can I get a second? Second. There's a motion by Commissioner Mason and second by Commissioner Edwards. Any discussion? All in favor? It passes 5-0. Next on the agenda is the finance report. Ms. Brittany, if you would, please come on up. And we greatly appreciate, I know your office is an award-winning office, all the hard work that you guys do and all the time that you spend making this thing happen, so we greatly appreciate you.
Thank you, appreciate that. Yeah, our audit is, it's a 6-month process for sure, but it's really an annual process, because without the correct posting and reconciliation of my staff, then the year-end closeout wouldn't be near as easy as it is, so my staff does a great job. All right. Tonight I will be presenting the January 2024 financials. So January is the 7th month of our fiscal year. So I'll start with our general fund revenue. So 7 months puts us about 58% into our fiscal year. So at this point in the year, our revenues are at 78.6%. That is pretty typical for this time of the year, because most of our tax revenue does come in through property taxes, and at this point we've seen a bulk of our property taxes collected. So this is a graph that just shows the amount per month that's collected in revenue. So you can see our heavy months are generally November and January, that correspond with our tax due dates. And the graph below also just shows the actuals to year-to-date budgeted. So for our general fund expenditures, to date we've spent $46.7 million. The current month was $6.3 million, so that puts us roughly around 51% in our actual to budget and our expenses. So this graph just shows our monthly amounts per. So you can see, as the auditor mentioned, our general fund revenues are roughly around $6 to $6.5 million per year, and we're continuing on that track again this year. So for our general fund revenues, our revenue to date is $72 million, and our expenditures to date are $46.7 million. So at this point, our revenues are $25.3 million over, but we will see that go down as we go throughout the year. So for our 3 enterprise funds, we have this water fund. Their revenue actual to date is $5.1 million. Their expenses to date are $3.2 million. Our solid waste fund, their revenue to date is $4.5 million. Expenses to date is $2.8 million. And for Gaithers and Factory Shoals, their revenue to date is $104,000, and expenses to date is $127,000. So we have 3 current SPLOS. We're currently working on closing out the 2011 SPLOS, so the only project left there is the historic jail, and we have $934,000 remaining to spend there. So we have the 2017 SPLOS that is also currently active. Several of these projects are ongoing, and we have $32.7 million remaining in that fund. Our 2023 SPLOS, we have mostly the bonded projects and the Tier 1 projects going there. Our current cash balance there is $2 million, but we do have those bonded funds that we draw down on. Our SPLOS collections to date for 2023 SPLOS, for December, we brought in $2.1 million, which is the highest month that we've had, but that is pretty typical for December with Christmas shopping and the holiday shopping season. So at this point in our 2023 SPLOS, we brought in $2.3 million over what our projection was. And then for the impact fee funds, we currently have $3.4 million in that fund. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Brittany. Any questions, guys? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next is update on the ARPA programming. Ms. Kennedy Shannon is here tonight. If you would, please come on up. Thank you for being here tonight.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Long time no see.
Welcome back.
All right, so tonight I wanted to come and give an update on mainly the senior home repair program. So as of Friday of last week, we have exhausted all of our funding. I'm going to give you the numbers of what it looks like with what we've been able to help to date and what we currently still have open. So we've assisted 275 senior households with an average grant amount of $17,526.48. Of that 275, 122 projects are fully completed. We've got 39 applications that are pending inspection from the county's inspector to go out so we can release final payment. We've got 153 projects that are still in progress. So what that means is they may have one project completed but may have another project open, or they may have multiple projects that are open and we're awaiting completion for those. Applications that we denied were 185 applications. These were individuals who were deemed to be over income, over the 50% target income area. And we have 385 applications still pending. So as of now, because we are out of money, those 385 individuals will receive a notice to let them know that we've run out of funding. So we kind of knew this going in, just the sheer number of applications that we had were well over 800 applications. There was never enough funding to fund all of those applications. But I think overall, with that average of $17,000 a grant, I think that's amazing. I know we originally had talked about a $15,000 cap, and we made it $30,000. But even with that $30,000 cap, we were able to have that average of $17,526.48. Now, what that means is obviously some seniors got the full amount depending on the need and what they were able to express, while others didn't get the full amount because they didn't have that need. Projects ran the gamut from HVAC systems to roofs to bathroom, shower installs. Unfortunately, there are going to be a number of seniors that are going to be disappointed because we weren't able to get to their projects in time before the funding went out. We do have $100,000 in reserve, and we're keeping that $100,000 because we've seen that projects are running over sometimes. So say, for instance, we approve a roof. They tear the roof off, they find additional damage, they come back and say, we need an additional $2,000 to fix that. Because we have 153 projects still out there, we thought we needed to keep some money to the side, because if we don't and we expend that money, any additional costs will be borne by the senior, and we don't think that that's fair. That being said, once all the projects are closed out, any remaining money of that $100,000 will obviously go back to the county. But we anticipate, just looking at some of the overages that we've seen, that $100,000 will be eaten up in additional. I mean, just last week we had 4 additional requests for funding, from finding mold behind the wall after they went in the wall to redo a bathroom, to finding fire damage under a roof that they didn't know was existing that they needed to repair. So obviously those things have to be fixed in order to complete the project. So we thought it was prudent to keep a certain amount of money over to the side to make sure that that's covered. Overall, we would have spent $4,819,782.52. That once you add that $100,000 that we're holding to the side, it'll be 4.919. The other money that's missing from that out of the $5 million went to Family Connect, purchase the laptop computers, all the other expenses that were associated with the senior home repair that were outside of iParametrics that came out of that $5 million that you all allocated. So that's kind of where we are with senior home repair. We will provide a final report once all of these projects are closed out. It'll be a very detailed report. It'll have before and after pictures. It'll have testimonials. There'll be a section in what we learned from this program, what we could do better from this program. And it'll be very detailed, and we'll get that to you, but we wanted to wait until all of the projects were completed before we had an opportunity to get that report. So that being said, are there any questions about what I've presented thus far?
Thank you. Any questions? Guys, any questions? Commissioner Sanders?
I have a question about the ARPA. We put in with $100,000 or $200,000 for mental health. Have you received any contacts for Anyone, I know they've been emailing the county, mental health therapists and so forth. I know we had that money sitting there for behavioral health, mental health, dealing with our public safety, getting them trained and all of that stuff. Have you heard anything?
I have not. I've not heard any more movement on that. I don't think you all had changed that budgeted amount. I know we changed the budget a few times, but I thought we kept some money in that line
It
item.
was like $100,000 or $200,000.
I think so. But yeah, we've not done any programming on that line item yet.
And that has to be allocated by the end of this year, right?
It's got to be obligated by December 31st of 2024.
Yeah.
So by December 31st, we need to find somewhere to put that money, some organization to put that money towards if we're going to keep it in that mental health line item.
There were many mental health organizations that contacted the county, and also some of that was based on the vote, was supposed to go with training our sheriff department on how to deal with mental health constituents. So I would love to see that movement, because we did adopt mental health as a crisis here in Newton County, so we do need to make that movement.
I think the last that I remember on that front was that we were going to check with the sheriff's office to see what that would look like. Liability-wise, having a social worker ride along with the police officer for calls that they thought met the threshold of being, a mental health call. I have not received any additional information on what that looks like, but I mean,
Well, there's counties that already do it. There's actually a structure on how that's done. Phoenix, Arizona, there's many counties that do
yeah,
it.
we do it in Detroit.
Yeah.
So it can be done. It's just getting the sheriff's office on board of what that looks like,
Gotcha.
and then being okay with it. And because obviously the sheriff's got to okay it, because they got to ride along with them. But
Yeah, he
the
asked
money's
me
there.
about it, but I don't know that, I'm not operations. I don't know if him and the county manager have had a discussion. He did ask me about it.
Gotcha.
Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for this report. We appreciate the updates. Do you have in your recording the amount of monies that we gave to Viewpoint Health?
So I don't have it broken down for Viewpoint Health, but I'm looking at what Brittany provided to me. Willing Helpers, Viewpoint, and Rainbow Community got a total of $1.1 million.
Okay. Because to my understanding, I thought that the money that we gave to Viewpoint Health
It was health related.
mental health related. So I don't ever recall there being a separate mental health budget or line item. Is that?
So I think I do recall there being a line item for the police mental health program. It was like $100,000 that we thought about. I think we left that there because we wanted the sheriff to come back to let us know how, one, if that was enough money, for one, and
Okay.
two, how feasible it would be liability-wise for that to happen. That's my last remembrance of what it was, but you are correct in that Viewpoint Health was mental health services that we awarded.
So the amount that you're referring to, the 100,000, is just going to be towards police. It's not giving towards any other nonprofit mental health organizations.
That was
Is
my
that correct?
understanding, that it was
Okay.
targeted towards a partnership with the police. That
Okay,
mental health
so
project.
not so that that line item for
It's not
mental
just
health.
open for anybody.
That is correct. So it is supposed to be whatever we have left for mental health is supposed to be just for the police and not for any other nonprofits that do mental health work to be able to receive any of those funds. Is that correct?
That's my
Okay,
understanding.
I just wanted to provide a level of clarity.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Sanders and then
Yes.
Commissioner.
If you can, just go ahead and, or maybe our county clerk can pull those records, because it does say mental health and organizations. We actually voted for it, it's on tape. So one of the things that we talked about was the possibility of working those various organizations that I'm speaking of work with the sheriff. They work with them in accountability court. And actually this line item came from our former accountability court, Robert Fox. This is where it came from. And so all of that is in place, and they work with all of these entities, these nonprofit partners, to provide that service with mental health that also deals with the sheriff office. And then we all know, going to NACO and ACCG, you have nonprofit partners that deal with certain specters of the government.
Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. C. Ms. Kennedy, normally, and you say we're finna get ready to close out the help to our seniors, senior home repair. And typically when you in a program, you normally have and you said that you want to learn about the programs and how people felt.
Mhm.
So how will you kind of I guess find out of the 138? I think you said something like that, of people who won't get their home repaired. So how can they come? Are they supposed to continuously call me at home, or are they going to call? Are you going to have some kind of window open so that they can kind of vent their frustration in them maybe not receiving it? I thought once we had a committee between you, the county manager, and the attorney, whereas people who were turned down for whatever reason, they could appeal and talk you through the process, and so they could kind of get more information on the reason why they were turned down.
Mhm.
So is that still going on?
Yes, so the appeals committee has met every time we've had an appeal. The denials that are going to go out for the 385 individuals, that's because we've exhausted funding. There really is no appeal to that, other than we need to find additional funding. The 185 individuals who were denied were based on denial of income, and they had a right to appeal. Some of them did appeal, others chose not to appeal. The other appeal rights extended to those contractors. We had some contractors who were deemed to be ineligible to work with the program. The reason those contractors were deemed to be ineligible because it was either bid rigging or they were non-responsive, meaning they had put an estimate into a senior. We called them to give them a contract. They never called us back. We called them. They never called us back. It was holding up the project, so we finally told the senior they needed to go and find a different contractor. For bid rigging, all of the contractors had a right to appeal, and we had a number of contractors come before the appeal committee, and Patrick and County Manager Cooper and myself, and there was a citizen member on that committee, and we heard those appeals and made decisions based on those appeals. Every contractor had a right to appeal. Some chose not to, others did. And when they appealed, we took it to the committee, and the committee made the decision on what that process was going to be. But to answer your question, we do plan on doing a survey. This will be a survey that will be shot to every single applicant, and it will ask them about their experience. Obviously, we're going to get some negative responses for those who weren't funded. We expect that. But we do want to know about the process. No process is perfect. iParametrics knows that. You all know that. What we can learn from this project is how we could have done this project better. But overall, we assisted 275 senior households with household repairs that were necessary to their health and safety. I want to reiterate, the purpose of this funding was to address health and safety. This money is COVID-19 money. The way I was able to even tie this back to COVID-19 is during another pandemic, where are you going to be? Home. You're going to be sheltering in place. We could not have seniors sheltering in homes that were not safe for their habitation. Thus, we have this program. We had seniors that were asking for things where we could make that argument that it was a health and safety issue. Some of them wanted new kitchen cabinets. Some of them wanted granite countertops. I understand the want, but there was no health and safety requirement attached to that. And so those repairs were denied. And those that did demonstrate a health and safety issue, they were approved. That is a very hard decision to make, to tell one person they can get money and another they can't, but that's the role of iParametrics in making that determination, and we took very good case notes and made very good cases as to why that is. The other thing I want to express to you all so that you understand, we are not a party to these contracts. Seniors go out and get 2 contractors. We tell them you have to go with the lowest contractor. The senior signs that contract with that contractor. The county is not a party to that contract. We don't want to be, because had we been a party to that contract, the county would have had to RFP all of those contractors. So all we are the fiduciary. We make the payment on behalf of the applicant. Now, what happens when there's a disagreement between the applicant and the contractor? I'm peacemaker. That's all I can be. I talk to the applicant, I talk to the contractor. What can we do to come up with a happy medium so that the contractor's happy and I can pay him, and the homeowner is happy and I can pay them? My hands are tied to an extent, because if the work is completed and your inspector goes out and says the work is completed, I've got to pay that contractor. I cannot withhold payment to that contractor if they've done the work that they were contracted for. Now, there may be disagreements between the homeowners of, well, I didn't want it that way, or I don't like the way that it looks. That's not a valid reason for us not to pay contractors, because what can happen then is that contractor can put a lien on that individual's house, because the contract is between the homeowner and the contractor. The county's not a member of that contract. So a lot of times when you have disgruntled applicants that are not happy with the workmanship, that happens to everybody, right? You hire a contractor, they come in, they do the work, and they do crappy work. What do you do in that regard, right? You try to fight back and forth with the contractor and say, hey, you need to come and get this done. We are using what leverage we have by holding that second payment to these contractors to get them back out to fix these things. Overall, we've been I would say overall 95% of the projects have not had an issue. We have had 5% projects where individuals have not been happy with the work that the contractors have provided. Or a contractor has come out and bid a job, they've got the job, and sent a whole nother crew to do the work. So this senior is thinking, you know, Mr. Johnson, who came out and gave me my estimate, is who's going to come out and do the work. Well, Mr. Johnson sends a crew, and these are people they've never met before. They didn't come and do the estimate, so they're calling us saying, you sent somebody else that we didn't pick. No, it's the same company, they just work for that company. So, you know, again, because we're not parties to that contract, our hands are tied in what we can and can't do. I will always call and advocate on behalf of the applicants because this is their program. But my hands are tied when our county inspectors go out and say, the work's done. You know, you may not like the color of the shower, but the tile is laid. And I got to pay him for the work that he did. So I just wanted to explain those nuances for some of the programs.
Well, my second question is that it was my understanding from some people said that we, under the senior home repair, they went out and we repaired renters, their homes, some of the homes that were renters' homes. Did we do any of that?
Everybody had to show proof that this was their primary resident. We asked for a utility bill and we asked for a driver's license. So if somebody, you know, slipped through and said that this was their primary resident, obviously we didn't go out and knock on everybody's door and made sure that they lived there. We can only go by what the documentation substantiated. Now, if you're familiar with the individual applicants who lied on their application, therein lies a problem because they lied on a federal application for a federal grant. And that's a horse of a different color.
Absolutely. And so what some of them told me, and like you said, I didn't go and knock on the door and go out and physically look at it. They told me that because of the low standard of just the address and a driver license, that we were actually repairing some rental property too as well. So I don't know how somebody might check into it, or if we want to check into it. And
well,
lastly,
we also asked for a copy of the deed, so the deed had to be in the individual's name. And then we also checked the online records for Newton County to show who the registered owner for that property was. The deed and that system had to match. So if you show me a deed, you show me a driver's license with that address on it, and you show me a utility bill, then you tell me and you assert in that application that this is your primary residence. That's really all we can go off of.
and my last question is how much of the, what was the commission, 21 million? I mean, all together, I mean, the amount of money.
Total 21.8 million.
21.8 million, how much? Thank you. Well, yeah, okay. How much did iParametrics, how much they make from those, I mean, from that amount of money for y'all services for the citizens of Newton County?
$1,040,000.
Okay.
So 5%, a little less than 5%.
Thank you, Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to take the opportunity to go back and look at the actual email that you sent to us back on July the 20th of 2023 that actually shows the complete spreadsheet that we voted on. And of course, we talked about supporting public health expenditures, addressing negative economic impacts caused by COVID-19 pandemic, water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure, premium pay for essential workers, of course, the amount that we would pay our iParametrics, as well as revenue recovery projects that we actually talked about funding as well with these ARPA funds. And so when I look at this that you sent to us back on July the 20th of 2023, we do have a line item for COVID vaccination incentive program, COVID incentive program marketing and promotion, as well as law enforcement mental health program. But when you look at this spreadsheet, those three line items were completely blank. So we never actually allocated funds for those. Now it says we have a total of $21,704,962 to be exact, which is the amount of ARPA funds that we received. As of July the 20th, 2023, we had already allocated $20,358,35.57, which we did not allocate in that $20 million that we have already allocated. When you look at the spreadsheet, those three line items for COVID vaccination incentive program, COVID incentive program marketing and promotion, law enforcement mental health program, those three line items are completely blank. So we may have voted on it to say, yes, we wanted to put money to those specific areas, but we never put monies in those specific three line items. And as of that time, we had $1,346,926.43 remaining, which I'm not sure if we've allocated those amount as of yet. But as of July the 20th, we did not allocate any funds towards the mental health, the law enforcement mental health program. So I just wanted to clarify that.
I'm glad you brought that up because now you're jogging my memory. We originally had obligated funding, but then we decided to move that funding back into the pot because remember we talked about at that time, we had reached out to the health department, and they said that there was no need to offer COVID incentives at that point in time because people who were going to get the vaccine were going to get it, and $50 wasn't going to change their mind. And I think we ended up putting those three line items back into the bucket and saying we would revisit it at a later date if we wanted to then fund it.
But it wasn't a vote.
Guys, listen.
Okay.
So I just wanted to put that on the record that yes, we may have added that or said that that was a line item that we wanted to address. But as of July 20th, 2023,
it wasn't obligated.
There was no funds allocated towards that particular program. And as a matter of fact, this spreadsheet says that Viewpoint Mental Health received $400,000.
That's it. That's how much they
got. So that is what they received. And that is kind of what we utilize to help address mental health concern here in Newton County. So I just want to put that on record and specify that that is actually what this board did. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Sanders.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sheed. Commissioner Mason, if you don't want to support mental health in the sheriff's office, we don't have to. It's not that serious. But we did actually do an actual vote. We can get that from our county clerk. It would be in session. We actually did a resolution to support our residents. Mental health, Viewpoint Health is an actual facility. And if you actually go to Viewpoint Health, it doesn't support all age limits. It also does not support our sheriffs and our deputies going out to fight and have training for our mental illness constituents. So that's what it's set for. We actually had meetings at NACO recently. You sat there, them talking about mental health and helping our constituency and making sure that law enforcement can have the tools they need versus when they see someone have an episode, they don't think that they are acting out. That's what it's about. It's not about giving it to a building. It's making sure that our law enforcement is equipped to handle the situation. Now, if you're against it, that's on you. I can't force you to do that. But going into the bid rigging, can you mention some of the things that happened or what are some of the cases of bid rigging?
So we had scenarios where, and I'm not going to mention any contractors' names, but a contractor submitted an estimate. Then the homeowner submitted another estimate, the second estimate, but they inadvertently left the original contractor's email on top of the second estimate. So you can see where that estimate was actually invoiced by the first contractor. And when you look at the templates, they're the exact same. All they did was change the company name at the top. And obviously one is $30,000 while one is, $29,500. And the one contractor's was obviously the lowest one. We also had a scenario where we had an invoice that was submitted and it just looked funny. So we called the contractor and said, hey, we want to ask you about a proposal. You went out and did a quote. I've never been to that house. I've never provided a quote. Come to find out, I asked him, hey, do you know this other contractor? Yeah, I know him. He submitted the secondary quote using his friend's company, but obviously didn't tell his friend, and his friend had never been out there. We had another situation where the contractor pretty much admitted on the phone that he got his brother to write an estimate. His brother had never been out to the property, and he thought that that was okay. We explained to him that it wasn't. This was a federal program. It needed to be separate. He agreed that he would remove himself and his brother's company out of running for that. We did have a number of applicants that were affected by that. So if we found an application that had a barred contractor, we contacted that applicant and said, unfortunately, you have to find another contractor. And we gave them time to do that. But obviously, we want to make sure that this program is it's competitive. And as a federal program, you have to have two separate estimates. You can't have contractors in cahoots and having conversations amongst each other and submitting two estimates to guarantee work goes to one contractor. So whenever we were able to identify that, we sent a letter to the contractor saying, we have reason to believe that this is a product of bid rigging. You have a right to appeal. Some contractors appeal, and they gave us their spiel about what happened, and I gave it to the committee, and we listened to it, and we made a decision, and we voted whether or not to believe them or not to believe them based on the evidence that was provided. So they had a right of due process. Everybody always has a right of due process, contractors as well as applicants. And so those were some examples of some of the bid rigging. There were only a few contractors that we removed for being non-communicative, so not responding back. We had another contractor who called and said he wanted to remove himself from the program. He had too much work. He couldn't get any more jobs. And so a lot of these contractors kind of wore themselves thin because there's money out there, right? And not only did this help seniors, but this also helped your contractor community. This could very well have been a contractor program as much as it was for senior home repair because you were able to stimulate that economy for Newton County, and those contractors did very well in this program. So those were some of the examples of bid rigging. But if there's any contractor who felt that he was denied access to do the work, he or she always had a right to appeal, and we always presented that information to the appeals committee.
Commissioner Mason,
Thank you.
Before you do that, let me just say this, because I think I already know where you're going. So Viewpoint Health, I sit on the board of directors for Viewpoint Health, and we do service all ages. We specialize in people who can't afford insurance. That's what Viewpoint Health does. But Commissioner Mason, there you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to clarify. It is historically known for the past 3 years that sometimes negative narratives are put out there on people, and I want to make sure that I address the negative narrative that has just been stated. Me personally, as an individual, as a matter of fact, I support mental health. If you go back and look at our video back in December, we provided a resolution, and we gave a resolution to a mental health professional who has been in this industry for well over 20 plus years, sits on the state and national board for NAMI, which is the National Association of Mental Institute. I always get their acronym incorrect, but they deal with mental health. As a matter of fact, I'm working with that individual, working with that doctor to start a mental health initiative here in Newton County. We are actually in the process of launching that mental health initiative as well. So I wanted to be put out there that I highly support mental health. As a matter of fact, the mental health initiative that I'm currently working on will address those individuals in the jail. It will also address those children that are in our school system, that are on our unsheltered, that have mental health concerns. So it will address all of those mental health concerns that we need. I want our community to understand as well. The American Rescue Plan Act funds was a one-time fund.
That's right.
It is not the solve all, end all. Just because we don't have funds to do everything in the entire county, does not mean that we will never get funds from anywhere else. There are other resources and sources out there for funding that we as a board should be able to look into, to where we can actually get additional fundings for mental health. We can get additional fundings possibly to start another senior home repair that's outside of ARPA funds. So I want this board and our community to understand that ARPA is not the end-all, solve-all. And if someone just did not get an opportunity to take advantage of those funds, it does not mean that this board cannot find a creative way to find other funds to possibly do some additional programs. We've just got to think outside of the box and look at other options and look at other opportunities and find other ways of funding so that we can continue to do this work. This was just the beginning. It's not the end. And so just because we have ran out of that $21 million does not mean, oh, we can never do these type of programs. We can never support mental health. We can never support our seniors because we don't have any more ARPA funds. We can find other resources.
And
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And to your point, we recently met with County Manager Cooper about grant initiatives, and mental health was on that list, as well as any other grants that we think would benefit the county. So, and we will be able to use these ARPA programs as pilots to say to a federal funder of another grant source, look what we were able to do with ARPA funding. We were able to take $4.8 million and assist 275, low-income seniors with health and safety issues in their home. Give us more money because there's clearly additional need in the community, and we can use that to leverage additional fundings via grants.
And I did want to add that because I do support mental health in the jail as well, what I was saying is that this board just did not allocate funds towards that specific line item. Not that anyone on this board doesn't support mental health in the jail. We support mental health in the jail, but this board just decided not to put any monies in that specific line item. Now, if we had to put monies in that specific line item, then it would show on that particular document that I stated. But this board didn't put monies in that line item. And so I wanted to make sure that people understood and knew that it's not Commissioner Mason that doesn't support mental health in the jail. He does. He's working on a mental health initiative right now that will support mental health in the jail. But we just didn't, as a board, put monies in that particular line item. So that was all I wanted to say. And other nonprofits that work with the jail, we can find ways to help those nonprofits if they are unable to take advantage of the ARPA funding.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Henderson. Yeah, we got to move on in a second here.
I got one more update. That's it.
I'm gonna be brief. First of all, I just, to our seniors, the ones who didn't get their home repaired, the 180-something people, and the ones who wanted to put in for it and who were turned down, I want to apologize personally to you because I think that we should have did better by our seniors. I also want to just tell them that I care about you. I'm just not going to just throw you out in the wind and say that. And so if there's anyone who want me to continue documenting what the needs are in our community, and I'm going to work with Commissioner Sanders and to help and try and find grants so that we can continue to help our seniors, and or whatever we need to do, I'm willing to do it because I'm willing to go over and put me a tent in front of Hank Johnson's office and say, well, hey, we need some grant money for our seniors on whomever I need to in order to make things happen for our seniors because you are my top priority. And one last thing, I think when we get some more grant money, we need to look at whether or not we can run it in-house because I still say, and I said it, Ms. Kennedy, when we first did it, I think that $1 million, that would have been, if we could have did it in-house, we might have had close to that $1 million more that we could have did more for our seniors. Thank you, Mr. C.
Thank you, Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One last point. As we talk about the senior home repair, When you look at the allocations that we put $5 million.
25% of your ARPA.
That is
allocation.
correct. That is the most
Of
that
any
we
amount.
put in any specific line item in the ARPA program. So we put $5 million. There's no other line item or no other program that we did that we put that much funds in. So the senior home repair was priority. It was the most, and I think this board did a great job. Now, of course, we may not have been able to help every single person. And that's with anything. You may not be able to help everybody, but you want to try to help as many as you can. And so with that $5 million, I think this board did a great job, along with our consulting staff, to really help as many people as we can. Like, we increased it from 15,000 to 30,000. So on an average, those residents got $17,000 worth done. Yep. And so we put a lot into that.
Y'all good? Oh, okay. No, hold on. No. It's his time. Go ahead.
So we put the most of the ARPA funds in that specific line item than we did any other program.
Even more than what you spent internally in the county went to senior home repair, so.
That is correct. So I just want to put that on record, that we did put $5 million, and we didn't put $5 million in any other program. So we, as a board, saw that as a priority, and we care about our seniors, and we wanted to do more, and we wish we could have done more. So I just want to put that out there. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, the other thing I want to talk about,
Okay, go ahead.
youth facility. We gonna have to make a decision soon. That money is ticking, and we've got to let HUD know what we're gonna do. So I know we've discussed this before, but I just wanted to put a bug in your ear. We got to make a decision with that. Either way. The other grant that we're still waiting to hear, we got awarded, but because of obviously the debt limit and Congress and what's going on, the $900,000 for Brown Bridge Road, that will be approved once Congress approves the budget, which should be in March, assuming that they can all agree. But that funding will be held up until that happens. We did get the other funding for the street safety plan. We're looking for some grant funding for senior services, mental health, housing was also on the list provided, and we're looking at trying to get some community development block grant dollars into Newton County on the grant side.
Commissioner Sanders.
I promise, Mr. Chair, I'll be quick. I just
you.
spoke to some state reps on Monday. The Department of Community Affairs has a grant called Georgia Dream. That's for housing, affordable housing, that we should have known about, but we don't know about because they told us that every county should have known about this. And it's for affordable housing. So if you can look at that as well.
Yes.
That is available now, and they actually just started the application process.
Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for being here tonight.
No problem.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for the update. Thank you for all the hard work. Next, number 10, Mr. Patrick, you want to take this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So your agreement with iParametrics requires or calls for a fee to iParametrics in the amount of 10% of all funds assigned to programs that are administered by iParametrics. As you well aware, because we just talked about it for the last little while, you have allocated a total of $5 million to the senior home repair. The second part of the agreement that's important for me to remind you is each time you assign funds to programs administered by iParametrics, we have to amend that not to exceed number to account for that 10%. We've not done that. So tonight's resolution is to amend the agreement to increase the not to exceed number to a total of $1,040,000 to account for that additional $5 million that they administered. So this is not increasing it beyond the $1 million, it's increasing it up to the $1 million. We've all, I think, assumed that that was already approved, it just hasn't been approved. So.
Let's get a motion on the floor, guys.
So moved by the county attorney.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Mason and second by Commissioner Edwards. Any questions? Commissioner Sanders.
This would be to the county attorney. What was the $800,000 we just increased? Probably about three or 4 months ago, before 2020, it was in 2023.
That was
It
for
went from
that was for, I don't remember what all the programs were.
But-
Kennedy Mike, that was the first bunch of new
No.
programs. that
If
they
you
were
watch the
trying.
video, we were told that was the final amount, the 800,000.
That was the final amount before you increased
No.
before you increased.
We
the
did
goal.
all the increases during that time. We did all the increases.
Yeah,
It was
it did not include the
800,000.
5 million.
Because the original was 400, 4 or 500. Then it went up to 800,000. And we were told that was the final amount. I mean, I go back and watch our videos. That's why I remember all of this.
We did a total of $10 million in direct programming, so that 1%, I mean, the 10% fee for that is the million, I think it's 40,000 or something over it. What we didn't account for is, if you recall, you put $1 million in senior home repair, then you had another meeting and you put $2 million in senior home repair, and then the last meeting you put $5 million in senior home repair. Our fee did not keep up with you continuing to add those millions of dollars to the senior home repair. So this is the final one that takes into account the $5 million you had in senior home repair and the $5 million you had in all the other programs that we run for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Henderson. Commissioner Henderson, go ahead.
Once again, I want to just apologize to to the seniors, our seniors, for us giving away a whole lot of money that could have been used for those to help that 100 and some senior homes that need to be repaired. It had been suggested when we first started, why couldn't we do like the city of Covington? Why couldn't we have an in-house person to kind of handle that money, Western accountants or whatever, thank you, or whatever, to help it. But instead I just think myself personally that $1 million is a lot of money, and we, even though we did good, I think it could have been more good if we did it. So, and I do want to address and hear the complaints of the people who didn't get their work done. So if anybody have a complaint and want their home documented so that we can make sure that whatever, if we can find some more grants or if we can budget a little bit of money every year budget cycle to help those seniors until we get them out, or as many more taken care of. Call me, 770-896-3826. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Patrick, this increase is to make us contractually compliant. Is that correct?
That's correct. It'll provide the compensation for the increased senior home repair money that was.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Sanders.
Thank you so much. This is not going against Ms. Shannon, Attorney Shannon. I do respect your title. But I had the opportunity to have our purchasing director to send me a copy of all of the companies who submitted as consultants. And some of them were at the $1 million mark with the programming. I read them in detail. And I asked that question from day one. As I said, this hasn't against her, she just works for the company. I asked that question from day one, was the $500,000 the cap? I was told yes. Then we came back again, and we increased it to $800,000. Now we at $1 million when you had those different consultants who submitted for their bid at this price. And we're doing multiple change orders after change orders, which is Newton County get known for its change orders. We're known for change orders. And so I asked that question. If you go back and watch the video, when we did the $800,000, I asked, was this it? And people know I look at finances, and we were told yes. And I would like for all the constituents to go back and watch that video for yourself as well. I was told yes. So I guess our county manager is stating now we have to pay additional amount, but we had consultants who submitted a bid at the same rate, and they were denied that bid.
Just wanted to do a point of clarity. So when we applied, we gave a price of $400,000. That did not include direct program administration. That was just consulting on ARPA funding for the $21 million total. After the debacle with Salvation Army and the fraud that we uncovered to the tune of $460,000 that came back into the coffers of the county, you all asked iParametrics to run these programs because you did not have a community partner that you trusted to run these programs. Obviously, that increased our cost because we had to hire people to do the program. So that's why the price changed. Had you not asked us to run these programs directly, our fee would have been the $400,000 for the life of the grant for the 21 whatever $1 million you all odd numbers you got. I just want to make clarity.
And I'm glad you made that clarity, because the reason why I said it had nothing to do with you, those other contractors had those programs in their bids because they were running them for other states. So they've done ARPA already. They had those programs detailed in their bids at the $1 million mark. So that's what I'm stating. I'm not coming against your company. It was mentioned in their bids.
I think what it shows, though, is that other companies bid it at $1 million because that's what it would take to get all these programs done.
Let's
So
do this. Let's do this. All in favor? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. It passed 3-2. Next on the agenda is the final reading. District 2, final reading.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the final reading for Shell Food Mart at 5870 Salem Road, Covington, Georgia 30016 for Shanka Thumala in District 2.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Mason and second by Commissioner Edwards. Any discussion? All in favor? It passes 5-0. Thank you. Next on the agenda is citizens' comment. This opportunity will allow citizens to come up and make comments. You have 3 minutes to do so. If you would, please state your name and your address for the record, please.
My name is Howard Green. I live at 55 River Shores Court, Covington, Georgia. I would like to get a copy of that report. The young lady came up, showed all the money and all that stuff, how it was spent. And it's voting time. Stan, Chairman, it's voting time.
That's right, brother. Vote.
And Mr. Mason, I believe you kind of need to listen a little bit what she was saying about that money for that mental health. She was saying for the police officers and all them to get a little extra training. You kind of missed something. Like you got something going on there. Anyway.
Anyone else? Anyone else?
Under Threat Nation here again to talk about the last time I was here, you guys spent over $1 million. But this time we're gonna talk about ignoring the citizen when we come to speak. Our words, they fall on deaf ear unless you guys are handing out money or somebody y'all done gave money to give them praise. So that's the only time you guys listen to the people. And I'm gonna give you a good example of that. We've been asking the county manager for a printout, an audit, how this money is spent. We still haven't got it. I asked the chairman about putting these monitors on the wall so they won't be in the people's way out there in the audience so they can see, but they're still on the floor. So that's how we know that you guys are not listening to us. And if you believe anything Ms. Kennedy say or the county manager say about ARPA, well, I got some sand in the desert to sell you in Saudi Arabia. And that's called some snake oil sale. And the other thing I want to speak on is the Salvation Army. When you guys gave the Salvation Army that money, did you guys ask for that money back or did they pay it back? We would like to know that. And these brackets here are not that expensive. Now, if you guys can go out here and spend $1 million or plus every month, hang these monitors and get them off the floor and put them up on the wall so the people can see what's going on up here. And I think that's going to be about it and stuff. Mr. Chairman, thank you for listening. I know this is going to fly over your head, but like I said, most of the time when the people come up here to speak, you guys are not even listening to it. Y'all don't respect the people. But like I said, it's election time, Newton County. Get out and vote because you need to make a change about your leadership here because evidently they must not care about when you come up here unless you can put some money in their pocket or they can put something in your pocket. But the average citizen that come up here and complain to you guys are so disrespectful you don't even listen to them. So I wish the citizen of Newton County would get out here and vote your conscience, and replace some of these people that's up here because they're not thinking about you. They're putting the money in the special interest back pocket. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Hello.
Hello.
How y'all doing?
Great.
Good. I got a complaint. Mr. Bang, I don't stay far from you. I stay on Oak Hill Circle.
Great.
Yeah. And when this program first came open about the senior repair home, my mama passed in November. And I had brought all the paperwork, the deeds to the house, the driver license. I brought everything. But I got an email saying, well, Miss Ruby Malone has been took off the list. Okay, that's fine, because I emailed you. I'm being truthful. I emailed you to tell you that she had passed. But when I emailed you, you took my mama off the list. When you took my mama off the list, you took my daddy too. And when I emailed my caseworker, Bahama Mama, she asked for more information about my dad and about my mama. And I told her, I said, I brought everything. I brought everything. She was like, well, we can't do anything about your application because you haven't submitted everything. I submitted everything, everything. Now I come today to ask about the situation again. They informed me, well, wasn't nobody name on the application but your mama's. How is that? Please make it make sense to me. If I brought you the deeds, my mom and dad been married 54 years. They lived in the same house 54 years. So how can you take her name? Okay, it's fine you took hers because she's deceased. But you got my daddy's information. You got his social security number, you got everything, his bank statement. How can you take his name off the list? My daddy has dementia. Speaking of mental health, I need some because I have to be up. I be up. When my daddy wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, I have to be up. I'm trying to make it safe for him to be where I can get rest so I can take care of him because I'm not putting him in no nursing home. No, I'm not. My daddy worked at Lithonia Lightning for 40 years and retired. So why he can't get no help? The government ain't never gave my dad a food stamp, my mama, nobody. So why they can't get no help around here in New County? We pay taxes. We pay them, so what's wrong? I see people every single day going to these places. They on Section 8. They getting their light bill paid. They getting the water bill paid. What's going on?
Ma'am, so the way it works, you have 3 minutes to make your case.
I'm sorry, but I'm fed up. I'm fed up.
Yeah.
I'm fed up.
Yeah. You can. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you give us your name, please, and your address?
My name is Tracy Delta, and my dad's name is Charles Malone.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Anyone else?
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Frederick Johnson, 1036 Highway 162, Covington. You know, I normally try to look after some cemeteries and so forth. we're still planning on trying to do another one this year before the trees put out. Look like they fixing to start putting out pretty soon. If we can get enough help, I'll try to, well, I'll let LaTonya know, which cemetery I'll be, working on. Was gonna do another one, we did one on King's birthday. It was in terrible shape, but we did what we could do with the help that we had. Have to rely on volunteers, and I think Miss Burcham, she always would help me out with tools and so forth, and whatever else I need, people. They will contact the schools and the colleges and try to get me help from the students. So we're going to be planning on that hopefully. And I just wanted to remind this board, May the 4th, 2021, this board voted to realign the project at Moat Road and Highway 162. I would still want you to continue to remember that. I thank y'all, Mr. Calvin and Henderson, for the work that they've put into our park, Spring Hill Park. It's coming along. Hopefully we'll be able to get some use out of it this summer. What else I need? The senior repair. I was fortunate enough to get some help. I had no trouble. Just like the young lady said, I provided all the information they'd asked for. At the beginning, it looked like it was a little bit slow because they didn't have the contractors in place. I, in turn, contacted Lowe's and Home Depot and got quotes, but they turned those down. But anyway, next time something like this happens, maybe we should, make sure we get everything, get our ducks in a row before we get started. And that way, we won't have that problem. I'm a retired contractor, and I know that's where it goes. A lot of times, you do a bid, take a job, you have to serve it out because but you held responsible for it, But anyway, let's just continue to keep the county moving. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
John Dobbs, Dry Pine Road. I just have two things. These trash postcards or whatever you want to call them, why do they go up $5 a year when our county taxes go up? I don't understand. And the second thing I found out just a while ago, this board don't control the school board. But when the sheriff comes to y'all and say, I need 20 deputies to maintain the deputies on the road, tell him to get them out of the school system, because the school system has their own police department. I just found out that a couple days ago when I went and voted. I got a picture of a car. When the last time I was at the school board, I mentioned it to the school board. Everybody except for one, because he was absent, said, oh, we don't have a police department. Well, they've had a chief for 2 years. So the sheriff should be starting to pull some of the deputies out of the schools and telling the schools to get your people. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief. Mr. County Manager, if you would, I know Brittany has gone, pass along our congratulations to her. A clean opinion from our auditors, no audit findings for internal controls, and please congratulate her on my behalf. And just so to pat my fellow members of the board on their back, 9 months of operating expenses is exceptional. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Nathan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to reiterate what our county manager discussed earlier about it being voting season. Our 2024 presidential primary election is going to be held on March the 12th. And so early voting has started at Turner Lake Recreational Center, Monday through Friday from 8 to 5, Prospect Church at Oak Hill, 6752 Highway 212, Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. And then Life Point Church of the Nazarene, 5133 Jackson Highway, Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. Saturday voting on February the 24th and March the 2nd from 9 to 5. And then Sunday voting on February the 25th from 11 to 4. Both of those Saturday and Sunday votings will take place at Turner Lake location only for Saturday and Sunday. So I just wanted to make everybody aware that this is going to be for the 2024 presidential primary election. We will have another election that will be just for the local primary, state and federal, but this one is just for the presidential primary election only. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Oh, and the last day to register to vote, well, actually that's passed already, February 12th, so it's already passed.
Thank
Yes.
you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Sanders.
First, I want to pay homage to the women who paved the way to this Black History Month. I want to pay homage to Shirley Chisholm, who was our first African-American woman elected to the United States Congress and the first African-American woman to receive the nomination for President of the United States. Ms. Barbara Jordan, elected to the Texas State Senate as the first African-American to elect to the State Senate, as well as Michelle Obama, the first African-American female to be the First Lady of the White House, and as well as Kamala Harris, our first African-American Vice President, first female Vice President as well. So I want to pay homage to those women who paved the way for offices and elected officials who actually paved the way for offices for us to be able to sit in these seats. I want to thank the constituents about us being able to travel to the various conferences. Why it's important for your elected officials to receive professional development and training, because they receive information, as we spoke of, like grants. If I wasn't at NACO this weekend, I would have not got stopped by OSHA, who handed me a paper and said, you need to immediately bring this back to your fire department because they have until May to respond. And then I brought that information back, and lo and behold, our fire department did not even know about that information because we are one of the smaller counties, and it's going to cost us additional funding if we did not comply. As well as with the SBA, who also stopped me and said, your county communication has 2 years to comply with ADA to make sure their website is ADA. This is why your elected officials need to do professional development. We had the opportunity to meet with over 20 federal agencies who had grants, who had programs for our youth, which you will find out, I'll put that all in my newsletter and give to my colleagues as well, who had funding, who stated that we were leaving money on the table as Newton County. There is so much money out there that those other counties traveled with their grant writers. Rockdale County, as well as Chatham County, had their grant writers with them, and once they heard the grants, they were sitting there applying for the grants. These are counties that came together. Their IT team was there, their communications team, their entire team was at this conference applying for those grants. This is why education is so important for county officials and county staff as well. Staff was there as well. It is important that we seek this education. We talk about grants, but we're not about grants. We talk about funding and not overtaxing the taxpayers, but we're not about it. Why? Because we're not doing it. But you look at the elected officials who are doing it and want to seek the funding for our community, going out and getting, i.e., $4 million grants, that it's a problem. But the reason why we do that is because we go out and seek the research. Education is important, and that's one thing nobody can take away from you. Thank you.
Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. C. I just want to talk just a little bit about Ms. Donna Watt Pace, who thought enough of Newton County to bring a children orphanage. She was a slave, and while being a slave, she helped the children in I guess at the big house. And so once she was freed, they built a orphanage off Donna Pace Road. She found out, and she married Mr. Pace, because she was a Watts. And she had a very nice orphanage and helped train kids, graduated from Atlanta College. But just as soon as she died, guess what? They wouldn't even wouldn't allow for a plaque of any sort to be placed on the property. And she owned all the property at one point. And so I don't want to forget about our seniors. I don't want to forget about them because they did so much to make this county great, and in all others. I don't want to forget about them. And I think it's a disservice for us, for our seniors, to forget about them when their time of need and when they're up in age. So I think as a board we should come together. We need to fix that young lady house who came up here about her daddy, Mr. Malone, because he did work out his whole life. And he did a whole lot for this community. And when you go over to the historic areas that are still here, that are not closed, you can't get in, you see his picture amongst the young men who marched to the square on Black Easter, just try to make a difference so that everybody could be remembered and be respected in their lifetime. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Cowell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just be brief. I just want to say it's it's good to see the Spring Hill project coming along out there. The chairman and I rode through there a few weeks ago, and it's coming along really nice. And I think that the same thing can be said down the road when we get ready to do Cousins School. So I just appreciate seeing things that come out of the ground like that. So I hope the community will be appreciative of that.
Thanks so much. I seek a motion that we adjourn, please. It's been motioned by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Mason. All in favor? We stand adjourned.